Thank you. Happy New Year. Let's do meditation. I'm not sure what your experience is, but it could be that 2013 could be the year of the speed up. If you watch the news, for example, it's not just the news, but have you checked out how fast the news talkers are talking? It's to me, it's incredible. But it's like that frog in the water that gets cooked slowly but surely, but can't hear?
I can't hear you.
Okay, how's this?
Yeah,
okay,
much better,
good.
Thank you.
I was talking about a frog in a pot where they heat the pot slowly and it gets cooked. This speed up is happening it encompasses everything. The speed at which things are moving, the multitasking. The economy is such where the middle class is disappearing to some degree, or at least it's strongly being affected, and therefore in a typical family, obviously both people work. And we may not have seen anything but the beginning of this. This speed up looks like it will not only continue, but it will continue geometrically. Things will get faster and faster and faster. Therefore, the meditation is, what if we had that this speed up got so crazy and so advanced that it turned into something like Alzheimer's, only instead of the slow deterioration of the mind, there was a continual speed up of life. And it would end up in kind of the craziness and insanity that we're seeing today. But what if there was a vaccine? And everybody started getting this speed up thing. They couldn't stop. But there was a vaccine. And the vaccine had this very specific effect. It slowed us down to about 1/4 the speed for a year. And so the first thing that it would slow down, obviously, would be our movement. Our bodies would the simple act of lifting a glass to take a glass of water, to take a drink of water, would be slow. Driving would slow down. Our walking, our speech patterns. The slightest movement in this slowing down would actually become enjoyable because we'd be able to feel it. And so if you close your eyes right now, pretend that we all took this vaccine together. And just turn your palms up, resting on your hands, and just open them really, really slowly, like very slow motion. And all you bringing those things in the back, just if you could walk real slowly. Be in the mood here. But just open your hands very slowly, and then close them back down slightly, and then open them back up. It's micro movement. You don't have to make them fists, but just feel the current, excuse me, that's available to us just because it's slow motion. We can feel it. And in the same way, just take your attention and put it in your neck. And it's almost imperceptibly, but just begin to slowly move your neck, your head a bit. No one's watching. It's a very private, personal thing. But really slowly. And you'll find that just by being aware of the neck and the hands will take you into feeling any other part of your body that happens to draw your attention to it. But it's possible to move any part of the body. You can move the liver area. It's ultra slow motion. your jaw. And there's pleasure in slow motion movement. It's automatic, because life inherently feels good. But if we're moving too fast to feel it, we miss the feeling good. We then think we have to do something, we have to meditate, we have to do yoga, whatever. When in fact, what we really have to do is feel. So as the body is just feeling itself, the awareness is turned inward into the body itself. There's no end to this exploration of just feeling inside and seeing where it goes. And you end up being a dancer. An ultra slow motion dancer. But the body is only the first thing that slows down. What really starts slowing down is our thoughts. And they get to slow down so that we can just watch them. Come and go. And instead of getting caught in following them on and on and on, we can just kind of from a still point watch them so they'll come and go. Instead of getting on the train of the thought and moving out into destinations unknown. But it will generally end up in trauma. But it's not just our thoughts that we get to watch. We also get to watch what we want. If you think of something that you want today, something that would really feel good, it will pop up. Like, to make this really a good day for you after this service is over, what's one thing you want? It could be to do, to feel, to experience. It'll be a pop-up. And this pop-up, when we ask the question, what do I truly want in this moment? That pop-up can only be found consciously when we're slowed down. Otherwise we miss it and we end up following our conditioned thoughts. And they run us around, those thoughts. And we miss the true heart want, the quality of compass, direction. And so when we're slowed down, we can follow what we truly want. And then this leads to another area of slowing down. It's the intuitive genius. It's the sensing things. It's this vast field of information that we have access to if we're willing to slow down to read it within our own consciousness. Everybody has it. You, me, all of us. We use it all the time. But to use it consciously, to sense, to intuit, is something that we can develop in 2014 as an antidote to the speed with which everything is moving. This slowed downness is available to us every moment. We don't have to do anything to get it. We just have to have a longing to be in it. And that longing can only come, from my experience, that longing can only come from the experience that all of this speed leads to nothing but suffering. that the stillness itself is where we find that kind of, speaking of 2013, that kind of Nelson Mandela grounding in heart. When we speak of God, when I speak of God, God's name is heart. Heart is another word for stillness. Stillness is another word for awareness. Stillness, God, love, awareness, all the same thing. It's only accessed through slowing down. And from this slowing down, there's great power. There's great strength. It's not a spaced out slowing down. It's real. It has grit. It's grounded. And it exists within all of us totally equally. That showed the 3 kids that just left. It's in them. It's in us. It's in the worst person, the best person. It's the access to it that differs. And the access only comes from the longing for it, the willingness to sit in it, enjoy it, and to celebrate it. Good.
What I do the guitar. I wrote this song, and I used to sing this song taking a hike, and it felt good to sink into myself while I was outside. It's called There's a Time. There's a time when you're looking outside yourself for the jewels that are shining in someone else. There's a time when you're longing to know yourself in me, and finally in you. There's a time when the battle is all within, or your mind finds shelter in peaceful wind, and you know there's something that's pulling you deep inside, deep within. Come to your senses, it's time to awaken to you. Silence is singing, it's sweet serenading for you. Hear your song in all the waters. Feel your heart in all the rivers, to know the ground on which you stand. time for ending your fantasies. Take the ride, excitement and mystery. Then you'll see the beauty in living free. Take the ride, take the ride. Come to your senses, it's time to awaken to you. Silence is singing, it's sweet serenading for you. Hear your song in all the waters. Feel your heart in all the rivers to know the ground on which you stand. I'm singing this song for your soul. I'm singing this song for your soul. There's a time when honor takes hold of you, and the old gets ragged and worn out too, and your faith guides you to something new for your soul. Come to your senses, it's time to awaken to you. Silence is singing, it's sweet serenading for you. Hear your song in all the waters. On which you stand, to know the ground on which you stand.
I really like that. Yeah? Just wondering, maybe we could raise another 10,000 to get that song out.
It is on a CD over there.
Oh, good. Well, get it out with us anyway. Beautiful.
Thank you.
I mean, in the synchronous we're talking about. So carrying the theme of that song and the meditation, there's two channels, perceptual channels in life, period. Imagine that we're TV sets or whatever. We only have two channels in life, and the perceptual channels. The first channel is obviously the thought channel. Through the thought channel, we get, excuse me, we get to solve problems. We think it's what's allowed us to survive in many ways, in which we could outthink whatever was the adversary that threatened our survival. The thought channel is extraordinarily beautiful, subtle, and amazing. I mean, what is a thought? Where does it come from? It's like the miracle of a thought. So we have the thought channel. Again, it's primarily to solve problems. You're cold, how do I get warm? Hungry, how do I get food? Etc. You're lonely, how do I get someone to be with me? Waking up with everyone else, or at least one person. So then the other channel, the perceptual channel, is the experiential channel. It's the direct experiential channel. It's the sensory channel. It's not the sensory just in senses, it's the channel that is how we directly experience life, outside or below the mind. Clear? Obvious? Okay, the trick, or the situation that we're in, is that we live in a mono-channeled culture. And guess which one we're stuck on? The entire culture is built from the from the mental channel. The mental perceptual channel. The entire educational system is primarily to teach people how to use the thought channel, and at the expense of closing down the perceptual channel, the direct experience channel. So when there's budgetary crisis in a school, what do they cut? They cut the arts and they cut sports. And what do they increase? Science, math, etc. Right? So this channel is the way that all teachers throughout time have spoken of, is that this perceptual channel is related to as the heart, and the mental channel is the mind. And if we don't make the mind the villain at all, but we just say the ratio is off, what we're supposed to be doing is spending approximately 10% of our time in the thought channel and 90% of our time just experiencing life through the perceptual channel. We've got it not only reversed, where it's at least 90% in the mind channel and the direct experience channel is 10%. In many people, it's closed down. They don't even know what the direct experience channel is. One of my own favorite quotes is, and I explore this, is, I overlay my life like dust on the grand piano. Oh, with thought. I messed up my own quote. I overlay my life with thoughts like dust on the grand piano. And so this being stuck in the thought channel produces a culture that has slowly and surely been more and more mono-channeled until we get to the place where we are today, where the issue with, for example, with climate change isn't climate change. It isn't the rising water or the melting snow or ice. It's the fact that we don't have the sensitivity that only comes to the direct experience channel in order to live according to how nature works. Because we're caught in the mental channel, which cuts off direct experience. It cuts off the heart. And as good as the mind channel is in solving problems, it's not good at relationship. It's not good at tasting food. It's not good at touch. It's terrible at making love. It's not good in nature. Because in nature, from the thought channel, it will end up, everything in nature is a product that can be bought and sold. It's just the way it's looked at. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the viewpoint. It's just the perception. So the question is, in this culture that is caught in the model channel, there is a tremendous, tremendous bubble or pressure that comes from being in a culture that is so bound in thought. The entertainment is essentially based in the drama that comes from problems. Somebody got killed, somebody's going to find the killer, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on and on. But it's mostly drama based upon People having problems with life because they're stuck in the mind channel. Most relationship problems, it isn't the relationship that's the problem, it's the failure of the two people to drop out of the constant thinking and to drop down into the experience of one another, where there's nothing to resolve. You go, wow, I've been missing this the whole time? So moving in slow motion with another person and getting out of thought opens up the relationship. There's no end to the beauty. But this question of how do we drop out of the constant spinning of the mind channel and get into the heart channel is obviously the topic of teachers throughout time. But we live in a very different time now, and that is we've never moved at this speed before. Never. We're moving, if you just look at horseback to the cars that have a 300 horse engine, 300 horses under that hood, or whatever. Just that alone. Fast and furious. And look where it ends up sometimes. So this pressure in the culture to keep everything mentalized, it's in education, it's in the military, it's in business. Donald Trump becomes the patron saint of what business is, when in fact it's business without a heart. And we end up competing with one another, and there's contests for everything now. Who's the best cook? The best, you go to lockers and find the greatest junk. Who's the best survivor in the wilderness? Who's the best wrestler? It goes on, who's the best singer? Speaking of Donald Trump, he owns the pageant of finding the most beautiful woman, not in the world, but in the universe. Like, how... And then we take on that, and I'm not putting down Donald Trump, actually, I'm not. From the mind channel's point of view, there's something interesting to me about him, truly. It's just, it becomes a caricature of what happens when we stay in the mind channel, not only individually, but then the culture becomes that. We then actually think that we are the greatest country in the world. The most powerful country in the world. And that's fine, but when we start acting that way, it produces havoc. So we declare war on the terror, when in fact we're not looking at, what if we were all to drop down as a country, and we're actually to feel the kind of pain that the world's in, not just with the military clashes, but with the hunger and the pressure on the planet to not produce enough water and food, etc. If we actually dropped down and felt the planet, our country could be the greatest country in the world in terms of what it's doing to create aid for people and real leadership in let's all work this out together as a world. Let's drop down. But it still leads us then to this question, how do we do this? When we live in a culture that's so hyped up. And the good news, here we have a tremendously good news, is we don't have to do anything. There's nothing that you can't do something to get out of the mental channel into the direct experience channel, because we're already in the direct experience channel. You can't do something to get to where you're going if you're already there. Like right now, can you experience, you're directly experiencing me, and if you look around, we're only directly experiencing everything in this little bubble of ours that we're in, it's consciousness. And so the trick is not to stop the mind from thinking, but it's to watch it as it thinks. And let it be. And one of my favorite quotes, it's not a good vegetarian quote, but if you want to take a bone away from a dog, give it a piece of meat. So if you want to take the attention away from constant thinking, give your consciousness something that's much better than all that thinking, and that's direct experience. Feel. Pay attention. Feel now. And we don't have to do anything to feel now. We can't get out of now. Try to get out of now. We're stuck in it. And not only are we stuck in it, we're stuck in it together. And so this realization that there are these two channels, and what we get to do is be clear that our purpose is in fact dropping out of this constant chattering mind into the direct experience channel. That's all we have to do in life. That's why we're here. Because within that process of dropping down into presence, if that becomes the purpose, then from that place of preference, we get guided from moment to moment to moment into excellence, or into gratitude, or into connection or love. It's automatic. And life is set up for us to do that, and it's having its effect on us right now because, in fact, our culture is moving in this direction beneath the radar. While the thing is being sped up, it's going to die. It can't survive that speed. We don't know what damage it'll create on its way down, but we do know it's not sustainable. And so while all this is being sped up, there's an alternative culture that has been in the making for a long time. Collectively, I mean, it's always been there, but collectively, we're dropping down into our own hearts and saying there's got to be a better way. But the only way to find the better way is to do it within oneself. It's not a political movement. It's not even a social movement. It can end up as that, but it only comes when I want to stop this constant fascination with my own thoughts and pay attention to now. To actually be present, to be here. To stop doing rather than trying to do something in order to make everything better, to make my life better, to make the world better. So this meditation bit about slowing down fits in their song. It's this willingness to get out of the idea that we have to do something to do this, because the mind is based on doing. It's a forward motion, it's progress, it's doing. And so, this idea of paying attention to now, there's great relief in it, is my experience. If I don't have to do anything, and if I don't have to worry about me, what happens is, if you look around, we're all in this kind of, let's say it's a fishbowl, and it's the fishbowl that's made up of what we're experiencing right now, what we're seeing, hearing. Like, it's very hard to think of what's going, well, we can think of what's going on in China right now, but we can't really directly experience it other than a thought. We're actually limited to this. It's very small. It's a fishbowl. We're in it. And right now, the fishbowl is not much larger than what you can see and feel. It's a tiny fishbowl of now. But it's this fishbowl that we're in the now is so rich and so deep that the experience of feeling now, we can actually, through feeling inside this fishbowl, we can feel everything outside of it. It's a glass fishbowl, and everything outside of it becomes available to us if we feel the small world of our now. It opens up. There's one little tiny problem. Tiny, just tiny problem. Again, from my experience. And that is, as soon as we say we want to shift channels, and we want to drop from constant thinking into presence, the mind really starts complaining. It actually is one of those junkyard dogs that is guarding that fence and all the junk that's behind the fence. And the reason is really a good one. our separate identity, which is a mental concept, ourselves, it's a thought where I'm me and you're there, and this is this and the tree's over there. It's all a mental construct. So we've created an idea of ourselves. I've got my idea, you've got your idea of yourself. And it's a movie. It's the story of me and myself. And it's me and my relationships, and me and my health, and me and my family, and me and everything. But it's a movie. But we create it from the mental channel. But when we hear a song like what Jane sang, we drop out of that story and we just, I don't want to define your experience, but I just melt. And in the experiential channel, this self begins to disappear. We become our experience. And I'm not pretending to say anything new to you. Please, I don't want to suggest that. But we actually drop out of this concept of self when we're in the presence of beauty or great strength or great something that drops us into our senses, into nowness. And we become the whole thing, waking up with everyone around us, which is what we're all doing. It's the only reason we're here. But it's this barking dog that starts to really want to bite as soon as you start questioning this identity of me, because it will feel exactly like dying. Exactly like dying. So as soon as you get still, the mind will say, do not get still. It's dangerous. Fear will come up. And if it isn't fear, it'll be anger. Don't mess with me. I'm me. I control this whole thing. I'm me. I am in charge. And it'll be literally that. Have you experienced that? It's literal. If you get to actually talk to your own concept of self, it has a voice, it's very clear, and it's running things. It is the chattering mind that says, don't screw with me. You said it first. For newcomers, I didn't start that. But don't mess with me. And it's real. And so the willingness to sit through the death of this mental idea of ourselves takes true courage. And it also takes one other thing. It takes being with other people who are willing to face that same death with you. And so this chattering mind will put up a huge fight. It will make a deal. It'll do this. It'll say, look, I know you want to sit still and come out of the mental channel. I get that. But I just want to remind you what's in the refrigerator. And I know you don't smoke anymore, but wouldn't it be a good idea just to have one cigarette somewhere? Or a drink or something. And I'll tell you what, whatever this fear is that you're feeling right now, it'll go away instantly if you get up and you turn the television on, or you go out, or you do something else, or you check your emails. Just anything to get you from being still where I'm threatened. And the beautiful thing about that deal is that the mind will come through. If you actually get up, the pain will go away. The fear will dissolve until you're ready for the task. It'll just go away. And then you'll have a nice nicotine rush, or a sugar rush from what you ate, or you'll be able to really find out. Somebody wrote you on Facebook something or whatever, and it'll be good. And you won't have to do it. You can just stay in the chattering mind channel along with everyone else. Because the culture does not support dropping out of the mind channel. It's treason. Truly treason. And it will not only not support it, there's punishment for it. Because, and it's subtle punishment. It's not a conspiracy in the sense of anybody's thinking this stuff up. It's that if you don't go and act socially and get involved when it's time to be social, like a family gathering, and you actually want to sit still because something is happening within you, there'll be a lot of encouragement. Oh, come on. It's family. It's this. It's that. You're being strange. Whatever. There's not great financial incentive to get still because you have no clue how you're going to pay the rent at the end of it. Because once in this place of stillness, so much of what we do as a job seems totally insane. I'm going to sell my time for dollars? You've got to be kidding me. So we don't have a culture that's set up that allows people to be artisans, artists. Jane, you should be celebrated. And if not nationally, we don't have to do the national thing locally. That music should be all around. Should. I'm just saying that as we more and more waken up, it will be. So I want to then kind of bring this back and talk just for, as kind of to close this idea of switching channels, is that my experience is that most spiritual teachings focus on the one-on-one experience. It's the teacher and the student or whatever. And what's often missed is the power of when people get together and they sit together. And in the sitting together, their only purpose of being together is to explore together what their purpose is in life, which is to simply to stop. And then together to tune in, to actually say, let's just get still for a few minutes, to get present together. And then the job of the people is to, and let's actually, for a moment, be real. Let's talk about what is actually happening in our minds and in our feelings. Let's be real with one another and track our own experience. So you check in. And then there is, and let's connect up with each other. Let's actually feel one another's presence and tune into it. Be present. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to eye gaze. We don't have to do anything. Can we just sit together? And then also at that time, there may be, can we create a time where we watch for this pop-up to come, only it's not what we want. It's, do you have something that you want to say to the person that actually would feel good to you if you said it? And 9 times out of 10, it'll be complimentary. You know, I haven't told you, but you're really looking good these days. There's a vitality about you. Whatever. But to create space for that. But then this circle of people, could be 2 people, 2 or 3 people. But the environment is created so we create an alternative culture just by being, we get together to be clear about our purpose. It's to awaken, to drop out of the mental channel. Then we tune in, we get still. Then we get real, we check in. And say, what's going on in your life? What's happening? And then we connect up. Just through, oftentimes it'll be compliments. But this leads then to, we get together in order to use the group to find out what each person wants in order to become more clear about their purpose, more present, more real, and more connected. What do you want? And again, it'll be a pop-up, but in that environment, the group can actually hold space for an individual to find out, what do I really, truly want? To be more clear, present, real, connected, and thus heart-directed. What do I want in my marriage? With my kids? My work? My health? And so by each person taking turns, it's not a manifesting group. We're not saying, well, let's manifest it. It's saying, it's by identifying what we truly want from the heart quality, from the heart channel, not the mental channel, not the conditioning. But when we truly identify and pay attention to our own heart longings, they have a way of manifesting themselves. That's how life is set up. You ask, it's given. Knock, door opens. It's just the way life works. So if we create an alternative culture by just getting together in these small groups, it's a different culture, because the culture that we're living in right now, instead of being clear about your purpose, there's an encouragement to stay confused and conditioned. And instead of being still, the culture wants to keep you busy. And instead of being real, the culture really encourages the late night talk show. Whatever that is, be closed, but put on a face. And instead of being connected, the culture really, really can sell to people when they're feeling disconnected and unworthy. And you can't be in the mind channel without feeling unworthy, because you can't feel who you are. And the culture doesn't want us to find out what we truly want from the heart. It wants us to stay conditioned and do what it wants us to do. No conspiracy, no blame. It's just the way it's set up. So in creating a new culture, we gather together in these small circles in order to drop out of the thought channel and still be able to access it, but be able to be in life in a way where automatically by doing this together we create community. Satsangat, congregation, the company of the holy. And it's not the company of the select few. More and more there's millions of us who are saying we want to get out of the mono-channeled culture and come into the direct experience of our own hearts. Thank you.
Well, I'm changing up things because I'm listening to your talk and I want to support it. So how about if, Donna, you could do the offering while I sing this song a cappella. And Donna, you can say something first, of course.
And I just want to say that in nature, everything is in circles. You probably have noticed that. And it's the same thing with money. Money flows out and it flows back in circular motion. So this is our opportunity at this time for us to really put our money where our heart is. If our heart is here, if you feel that you really receive some beautiful messages into your heart when you come here to Unity in Ashland, then we ask that you support us, because we are here only because of you and your support. So I invite you to bless your offering, and also there are envelopes if anyone wants to contribute. Is that right? Contribute to the matching gift. Okay. And there's a bowl in the back as well. So just take your offering in your hand and put it on your heart, and really infuse it with that heart energy. Feel it deeply and see it totally expanding and growing 1,000 times 1,000. For the service of the light. Thank
you. With this love I do declare, all that I am is here to share. This life of mine is a sacred prayer. In this love, in this love, every time my mind goes astray, and when I get so carried away, I just stop and be still. I just stop and be still in this love, in this love. I am you. I am you. I am time to stop and be still in this love, in this love. I am you. I am you. I am you. I am you. I am
So yes, as we bless these offerings, let's just pour our heart energy into it again and rub your hands together, get that energy flowing. And imagine that these are overflowing with abundance. And together we say, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. Thank you. It's funny, when I lived in Boulder, Colorado, I knew a woman who legally changed her name to you, Y-O-U. So when people asked her, well, who are you? And she said, I am you. Reminded me of that. All right, well, speaking of circles, this is a good time for us to form one big circle here so we can sing our closing song.
Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, a peace that